Hi everybody, and thanks for viewing this YouTube fly tying tutorial of Lance Egan's Frenchie. This nymph has really been gathering steam over the last few years in the fly tying and fly fishing worlds for many good reasons. For starters, quite simply, this fly catches a lot of trout. You could say that it relates to that Frank Sawyer's famous nymph in that it's got a pheasant tail body, but more than likely it's due to the fact that it's representational of a lot of the mayfly nymphs that are found in the streams and rivers throughout the United States. Second of all, this fly is really associated with a lot of common buzzwords in the fly tying and fly fishing industries. If you think about it, I'll say a few words that you'll probably instantly recognize as those buzzwords, such as coque de lion tailing fibers, hotspots. It's known in competition fly fishing circles, and also this fly is very prevalent throughout the European and Czech-style nymph fishing worlds. Put all that stuff together and you can easily see why this fly has been so popular over the last few years. If you do a Google or YouTube search of the Frenchie, you'll find at least 100 tutorials showing you the standard tie. Thus, that's not my intention for this video. Instead, I'm going to offer you a number of variations through my tips and techniques. I'll share a few things with you, such as an alternative style hook to use, the jig style, an alternative placement for the hotspot, and some other materials that can be used to tie this fly a little bit more effectively. The first thing I'm going to do is show you a finished look at the fly. Then I'll give you the materials list, and finally I will go through the tying procedures of Lance Egan's Frenchie. Alright, let's start tying this Frenchie nymph. For starters, I have an Allen jig hook in my vise. This is their J100. It's a size 16, though I'll tie this anywhere between sizes 10 the whole way down to a size 20. These jig hooks are definitely some of those buzzwords that are out there right now, mainly because they ride hook point up. That's a great thing for us fly fishermen because if you fish this pattern heavily weighted, you won't get as many snags with that hook riding up. The other piece of information that I recommend when tying on jig hooks is to tie these flies in the round, which means you're basically putting materials on and you want it to look the same the whole way around. That's great whenever a fish looks at it from their perspective, being that the fly will look the same no matter which way they look at it. After the hook, I've added on a tungsten slotted disco bead color silver. I really like that silver color. It goes with a lot of the materials I'll be adding today. The disco beads are just wonderful because they really seem to reflect light in so many different ways. Next, I have approximately 10 wraps of .010 lead wire. You can only see about 6 of those wraps because the other 4 I've pushed up into the slot. I'm going to be adding some glo-brite yarn, number 5. Whenever I say yarn, this is more like a floss or a thread. This is extremely fluorescent, which is going to help to create the hot spot. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a bit. Whenever I tie this on, I really want to be careful. I really try not to just pull that back because it just seems to fray all over the place. I'm going to wrap back to approximately the same point or a wrap in front of where I would have a barb, and then just stop. And it's at this point that I'm going to be tying in my tailing fibers, which are coque de lion. As you can tell in the video, they have a really nice sheen to them and some excellent modeling. They're also, as I mentioned before, really durable, which means a lot for this fly. I pull off approximately 6 to 9 of these fibers. That is a random number, but that seems to be about how many I pull off each time. Once I have these all lined up, with all the tips even, I'm just going to place it up against the body, and I want it to be approximately 1 body length. So I'm just going to move that over to my left hand, pinch, and pull down. Once I have that lined up, I just want to verify the length. In this case, it was a little long, so I'm just going to move them forward a little bit. Then I can lock everything in place. I'm just going to go back because this is actually going to be building up the body, 1, but number 2, and more importantly, creating a hot spot by the tail. Let me get my fibers out of there. Once I have them out of the way, I'm simply going to get this locked in with a little half hitch, and that is it for my glo-brite yarn. I'll be telling you a little bit more about that in just a second. But next I'm going to add just some 6/0 fluorescent yarn, and then, or fluorescent thread. I keep saying yarn. This is more of a 6/0 diameter, which is a little more manageable when tying in your other materials. It won't build up your body as much. I'm going to stop it about 2/3 of the way back. I'm going to tie in my rib, which is going to be hot orange ultra wire, size small. I'm not going to cut this with my fly tying scissors, Tim. My buddy Tim Abbott always gives me a hard time. I sometimes or occasionally will use my fly tying scissors whenever I'm trimming metal. I'm not anymore. I got a pair of nice scissors from Rip Lips. These are great because they're serrated. They also have nice tension control. I use these a lot with deer hair now and all of my wires whenever I trim those. They also have a really cool fish skin, so they look pretty nice. So Tim, I promise you, I'm not using my scissors anymore. Just going to lock in this wire on my side. I wrapped it up so it's maybe 2 millimeters from the bead. Then I'm going to wrap back. So I'm about 2 millimeters. I'll use that measurement again from the tailing fibers. So I'm going to leave that glo-brite thread back about 2 millimeters. What I've just done was create a hotspot back by the tail. If you fished with hotspots in the past, as a lot of guys certainly have, most hotspots are tied in at the very end, tied in right as some of the last thread wraps. And that's a great thing. We really love to fish hotspots because they seem to get the fish's attention, and more importantly, they really can be seen at very deep depths. All they need is a little bit of light to give a little bit of reflection. A lot of fishermen, however, have been using these hotspots. Thus, us fly tyers got to get a little more creative. So we're putting them all over the fly, and in this case, I'm using it as a tag. Once I have my ribbing in there, I'm just going to grab some pheasant tail. Excuse me. I trim off approximately 5 fibers. I don't want it too bulky. I'm going to hold them by their butt sections, trim away the tips. The tips are pretty important when we're using these as a tail, but in this case we're just using them as body fibers, so I am not so concerned about that. And just like with my ribbing, I just want to make sure I have it locked in, but still leaving a lot of that glo-brite exposed. Looks like I just lost a pheasant tail fiber there, as they can be sometimes pretty fragile. If you feel like wrapping this forward with your hand, you can. I'm going to be using my little Stonfoam material clip. It's got a nice little grabby, and it gives me nice tension control. As I wrap, I'm just going to angle these a little bit forward, and I want to make sure that each wrap is just touching the previous one. And I'm going to bring this the whole way up to the head. Only need a couple wraps to kind of lock everything in place. Get a couple in front. Get that tag end out of the way. Next, I'm going to bring forward my wire ribbing. I'm going to counter wrap this, which basically means I'm going to wrap it in the opposite direction that I wrap the pheasant tail. I'm going to do that because that will protect the pheasant tail. Whenever fish take this pattern, their teeth will really tear it up. And we want to really protect those pheasant tail fibers because they are so fragile. Now we're just about ready for our final material, which is going to be our thorax. In this case, I'm going with, again, just another really high-vis material. In this case, it's fluorescent fire orange SLF prism dubbing. Whenever you place on this dubbing, you just need to grab a small pinch. I typically always grab more than I need. In this case, I probably did again. I want to make sure I have about 1 inch of dubbing on my thread. If you go a little more, that's okay. You can pull it off. Once you have that dubbing on your thread, I'm just going to get a little saliva, tighten it up a little bit, move it closer to the head. And I'm going to make about 2.5, maybe 3 turns of this material. If I get more than that, I'm just going to get that material out of there. I don't want more than that many turns. All this excess stuff, I'm just going to pinch out of the way. Once I have those 3 turns on, I'm going to get 1/2 hitch and take a look at my fly. That's exactly how I want this Frenchie to look. So I'm going to finish this with a whip finish. I'm using some Sally Hansen hard as nails. In fact, this is the advanced. This is going to be used as my head cement. I'm just going to place it on about 1 inch of the thread. Just get that in there. And whip finish this. I've just started using this advanced. I've been using the Sally Hansen hard as nails for years. I saw the advanced. I purchased it. Have had nothing but success with it so far. If any of you have any comments regarding this advanced, please let me know. But with that said, here is a look at the finished Frenchie Nymph. This is probably a little different than those that you've seen already. We got a lot of stuff going on here. A lot of really trendy stuff. You can see as I kind of trim this away, we have our nice Coq de Leon fibers for the tail. We have a nice little hot spot back there. Pheasant tail with a little bit of ultra wire over top of it, counter wrapped. We have a little bit of that UV fluorescent fire orange SLF prism dubbing. And then we even have a little bit of fluorescent thread that's tied in right before that bright disco bead. Occasionally, I forget how great fluorescent materials can be. To demonstrate that, what I'm going to do is turn off the lights, and the only thing that I'm going to use to shine on this fly is going to be a UV flashlight. This is a light that we commonly use to cure UV glues, and you'll quickly see what I'm talking about. The glo-brite thread at the back is just so vivid, as is the thorax. I can even see some of the orange thread shining through directly behind the disco bead. So please keep this in mind whenever you're using fluorescent materials, especially that glo-brite. They are materials that can be seen at depths that are really incredible by fish, and they really do help us to catch more of them. As I finalize this fly tying video, I want to show you a few other color combinations besides this orange one. First, this is one tie with pink glo-brite, red ultra wire, and then light shade of rainbow scud dub. It's a nice color combination if you're going for a light look near the head of the fly. An additional one that I tie with that rainbow scud dub uses chartreuse as the glo-brite, chartreuse ultra wire, and then the dark shade of the rainbow scud dub. And then finally, a fun one that I tie that definitely catches fish has, again, pink for glo-brite, silver or red for ultra wire, and then purple, of course, it's UV ice dub. So those are some additional color combinations. Please, if you have any ones that you like, share those in the comment section so all of us can kind of cheat a little bit off you. But with that said, this orange is definitely my favorite as of right now. With that said, I'd like to first thank Allen Fly Fishing for the use of their J100 jig hook. You can find this hook and many others at allenflyfishing.com. And I'd like to thank all of you for viewing this fly tying tutorial. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them directly on this YouTube page, or as always, you can email me at tcammisa@gmail.com. Thanks for everybody for watching this YouTube fly tying tutorial of the Frenchie Nymph.